What's going on, everybody? Critic and the Common Man here. Another episode, The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. Am I mistaken, Chris? Or is this your favorite movie that we are about to review?
It is definitely in the top 3, I would say.
Really?
Yeah, man. And it's funny because reviews did not reflect well. And I mean, and that's why I chose it because, you know, for all I know, you're like, dude, I don't know why this is your favorite movie. Like, but I don't know. I'm a sucker for movies that have to do with like deeper subjects, I guess. I like movies that make you think about life and question yourself and your decisions. And
yeah.
Oh my God, what am I doing?
Yeah. I can't do this podcast anymore, man. I'm out of here.
Gotta go. But yeah, it's definitely up there in the top 3. It's I don't know, man. It's a movie that I got introduced to that I didn't think I would like. I didn't want to watch, and I watched it, and I have seen it so many times since. It's an uplifting movie. It makes you want to live.
Yeah, it is. I was not surprised as I was going through this that you liked it so much because you can draw a lot of connections between you and Walter Mitty. Now, let me ask you that now personally. So he deals with photography.
You mean me, or you mean you as in like the general viewer?
You specifically, the critic. You're both involved in photography, okay? You both enjoy. His was newfounded. I don't know if you guys can hear that. There's a huge thunderstorm outside my house right now, but I don't know if that'll pick up on audio. But you're both interested in photography. Okay, that's one. Number 2, you both have, albeit his is more newfounded, like a good sense of adventure and like passion for things that like you go out and do. And I feel like you're both like his story, the story of Walter Mitty is kind of one of taking chances and going for it and not letting your life pass you by. And in conversations that you and I have had, that's very much you. Like that was like, even when we were starting this podcast, it was like, well, you know, one of the big reasons was not even so much why, it was just why not? Like we're both interested, we want to do this, Let's do it. Like it's just something else exciting, interesting that we can do, be a part of. I had never seen this before, and it's funny, when you first said, you're like, oh, one of my favorite movies is The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, I was thinking, I didn't think I knew what movie this was, but there was like a specific part in this movie. The title is just so weird. Yeah, it is. There was a specific part in this movie that I like immediately remembered seeing in a trailer, and it's when, I wonder if I could even find this, like if you look up the trailer for The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, I wonder if it's in there, but there's a part where he like comes out of one of the posters where he's like the mountain man and he's all frozen and he's talking to Kristen Wiig's character, Cheryl, right? Cheryl?
Yeah, he's like,
yeah, sure.
My name is Walter.
Yeah, exactly. I remember that specific part from the trailers like so vividly for some reason. It was weird. It was like somewhere I had like a little memory in my brain that's been dormant forever. And then I saw that part of the movie. I was like, oh yeah, I remember seeing that in the trailer for this film.
This movie came out 2013? I think is what it said.
I think it was 2000. Yeah, let me check. I'm pretty sure it was 2013. Yep, 2013.
Which means it's really not that old.
No, it's not. It's not. But old enough, you know, if you had seen it, where you know you're going back.
Yeah, it's one of those movies that kind of like slides under the radar, and then you either watched it or you have no idea it exists.
Yeah. So, what is it about this movie? Like, would you say that made it kind of one of your favorite films? Not from a message point of view or like plot point of view, but like cinematically, or like you know, just how they made this movie. What about this movie did you love so much?
So not writing wise, but just, I guess for me, there's something about like the kind of documentary style editing and cinematography that this movie does at times, because then there's the opposite of it where at times the movie is done where it's like very, very obvious that there's a director, like when they're messing with the stretchy guy. And then they just like they go flying out. Is that when it was, or whenever they have that weird action sequence?
They were in the elevator, and he's trying to take Stretch Armstrong from him, and like go flying out the building. Basically,
is it like did they break through the elevator wall? Is that what happened?
I don't remember if that's exactly how they went rocking.
Because I don't remember how the hell they went from elevator to outside. That's why I was questioning it. But
yeah.
But yeah, I just, so there's moments like that where like the director, Ben Stiller, is very obviously like being a director and like, hey, we should do this and like, how cool would it be if we did this? And, but then there's moments where it feels very genuine. It's a glimpse in the life of this character. Somebody who is very obviously missing out on life, he feels.
You should know, and you may already, did you know that The Secret Life of Walter Mitty is a book?
Yes, and I haven't read it, but I want to.
So it's very different from the film. I'll
heard.
say that. Like, it's not... I would say that The Secret Life of Walter Mitty movie is kind of loosely based on the film. Because in the book, if I remember correctly, it's his, like, delusions of grandeur that play, like, a much bigger role in the story, whereas in this, he, like, actually is going out and achieving this adventure.
Yeah, so, from what I understand, yeah.
Yeah, you should read the book for sure, just so you can kind of see where it spawns from and where Ben Stiller was drawing from with this story. And I didn't think that this movie was overly Ben Stiller, and like no offense to Ben Stiller, but sometimes Ben Stiller movies can be like a little too Ben Stiller. You know what I mean?
Have you? What other movies has he done? Because I have no idea.
I don't mean like in a directorial point of view, but just his like style of comedy. Like
absolutely,
his character can be a little overwhelming, and then him as a director, like when he's like the Benjamin Button version of himself, and he's like all shriveled up on the thing, and she's like, "Die in my arms" or whatever, like "Let me cuddle you while you die" or whatever. Like that was very Ben Stiller. Like there was a lot of very Ben Stiller.
I love when he's talking about that though. He's like, "I have that Benjamin Button disease where I get older but tinier or whatever."
Or whatever it was. I never watched the movie. Yeah. That was good. Dude, my camera is literally like rattling when this thunder hits. It's awesome. Like I'm excited to watch this back. It is crazy. I live in Orlando, so this is like just a regular afternoon. But this one...
we're in the same room, Danny. We're looking at each other right now.
Right. Sorry. We're on the same screen, same room. You know how it goes. But yeah, this one, I thought it was a little quick to jump from him being kind of this helpless, kind of zoned out Walter Mitty to all of a sudden he's this like explorer and he's in Greenland and he's there and he's doing the thing. Like I thought what this movie missed a little bit was kind of not so much the build up. Like I know like the delusions and stuff growth. And like him, yeah, like kind of the growth into that, but then also like the actual adventure once he was there. I don't know. It just kind of felt like it happened really quick. Mm-hmm. Like he went from being zoned out and kind of helpless and just sort of a weird dude to all of a sudden being in Greenland chasing down this guy. What was the photographer's name again?
Sean O'Connell?
Sean O'Connell, yeah. Chasing down Sean O'Connell. That all happened...
Sean O'Connell. Sean Penn plays Sean O'Connell.
Yes, yep. Sean Penn is the actor, and then Sean O'Connell is the photographer's name. It was very quick to have him like kind of being like chasing down, and then all of a sudden he's in Greenland and he's there and he's already in the adventure. That happened fast, but I loved how inspiring the movie was, and that it like really kind of pulls on your sense of adventure, and it's like, hey, there's a whole world out there. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Go and experience this. Don't let your fears kind of inhibit you from living. Don't miss your life. And it was kind of beautiful how they kept throwing the motto, like the time motto, into the whole thing, and like that was kind of wrapped throughout it. And even in like in the cinematography, like it was on the background, on the walls and stuff. Mm-hmm. I will say, the delusions of grandeur that he had were a little out there, even for me sometimes. Mm. Like, and that's just kind of one of the fun parts of the movie, I suppose. Like, that's just kind of one of the unique parts of the movie.
It is strange. It's absolutely strange.
He has these delusions, but that took me a minute to kind of adjust to. I was like, whoa, okay, like, that wasn't real. Like, that's not actually happening.
Yeah.
But it is kind of a relatable story, I think, to anybody who's got that, like, traditional office job. Like, that traditional desk job. You're kind of in the rat race. And there's a whole life going on. There's a whole world out there that you kind of sometimes, I think it's pretty common for people to feel like they're missing. And anybody with that sense of adventure can relate to this character, Walter Mitty, because he's apprehensive and scared and uncertain. And then he goes for it. And next thing you know, he's, writing about fighting off sharks in Greenland, and he's in the Himalayas or Afghanistan or wherever he is, and it just, he quickly racks up this kind of interesting experience list, and it's inspiring. It was very inspiring.
Yeah, I guess for me, I see it more as, I guess it doesn't surprise me that he was able to get into that going to Greenland and then Iceland and then, fuck it, I'll get on this, in this boat or whatever. Because I think the idea of the movie is that we're all just that one push away from having that life. Because I've read it before, you see it on Instagram and, wherever, MySpace, follow me on MySpace, guys. All of the inspirational stuff, but you're literally one decision away from a completely different life. And I think that that's kind of the pushing and motivating factor of this movie, is that he was not only having to try and find this thing, this photograph, but the fact that his whole company that he worked for the last 16 years was also going through this change, I think is really what pushed him. Because he realized that this thing that he had given his life to for 16 years was now being taken away from him, and he had done nothing. And I think that I don't think the movie did a good job of showing us that process, but I think that is the catalyst that starts the story. It's not that he lost the photo, it's that his company that he's worked for is now going under, or, becoming an online
was acquired.
Thing.
Right. Now changing, basically.
Dude, that old guy at the beginning. Like, he sent a telegram, like an actual telegram, like a 100-year-old man came in.
The old messenger guy walking, like a 100-year-old guy came in here.
You just see him in the back.
Looking for the exit. He's just looking around.
The little types of humor that just get into these movies, I don't know.
It was a very funny movie. And I expected it to be, with it being a Ben Stiller movie, I expected it to be funny.
But it's weird because it's I don't know, for Ben Stiller, I feel like it could have gotten weirder. Like, I don't know why I always think of him in Anchorman.
It could have gotten a lot dumber, and I'm glad it
didn't.
It very easily, if Ben Stiller had over-Stillerized this thing, it could have been, it's a verb, it could have gotten really dumb, and it would have detracted from the movie. So props to Ben Stiller, his directorial abilities. I don't even know if that's a word, but cool. I feel like we make up a word every episode of this podcast.
Yes. Oh, it's absolutely becoming a running thing, yeah.
Absolutely. But his directorial abilities, props to him, because he kept the heart that the movie needed and the story had. And again, it's been a long time for Walter Mitty, but the book, he's not exactly pulling the story from the book. He's definitely, there's like some interpretation there and some improvisation. So let me ask you this. If you could drop everything right now and go anywhere, where would you go?
Rome.
Okay, what would you do there?
It's
check out the Colosseum. Yeah.
That's what it is, man. I don't know if I've been there in a past life or what, but the Colosseum, dude. I'm a huge history person. I think I've said it before. I love history. Yeah. I watch so many documentaries on just history. Like, I actually help them out, guys, if you haven't. Our sponsor, Curiosity Stream. For only $3.
Yeah.
It's $2.99 a month, but I'm totally subscribed to them, and I've seen so many of the most interesting documentaries on that website. And it's cool because, like, when COVID hit and obviously everybody was struggling with, like, the change and everything, but they allowed me to continue because I was going to cancel them, and they allowed me to continue the subscription for 3 months for 1 month.
Nice.
And, they were like, it was awesome. So I had like 3 free months, and I've seen a lot of documentaries. The point is, I love history, and so if I could go anywhere, it would absolutely be in one of the most ancient cities in the world. Like, I would absolutely love to visit Rome and see.
No shortage of history in Rome. No shortage of history in Rome. That's for sure.
When in Rome.
Well, when in Rome.
Yes. Please go on.
When in Rome. Yeah, I like that. This was a very inspiring movie. I think, to me, again, it happened a little fast. Him being kind of this goofy office guy, and then all of a sudden he's just like, he seemed very capable, I guess is what I'll say, for a guy that seemed so incapable at the beginning. Like, towards the end there, he's like jumping out of the helicopter with not very much persuasion, and he's getting into the helicopter with not very much persuasion, and then before you know it, he's like, I guess to be fair, the whole thing was he was kind of an adventurous action kid. He had the mohawk, he was a skater kid, and then when his dad died, he kind of repressed all of that.
Yeah.
So I guess the capability of him to come out and do those things was always there. It was just
And
sort
he
of
was
repressed.
a big skater, and
Right, like he's
skating
like
is
doing
hard,
the
man.
tricks
Like,
on that. Yeah, it is. It is. He was doing all the tricks on that kid's skateboard. That was funny.
Yeah, I know. And the thing is, he's totally riding that longboard on in that scene. So I wonder if that was actually him, and like he used to actually skate or something.
No way. You think that was actually Ben Stiller riding that?
I don't know,
longboard?
man. I'm saying I wouldn't be surprised because he was riding the board in like
Yeah.
like you know what I'm
true.
talking about, and when he's going down the hill and stuff. I don't know if
Right.
that was him from the behind shots, but like when we're seeing him in front, that's obviously him.
Yeah, he goes from being this guy who's terrified of the world to climbing up. What was that, Everest? Where was he there at the
The
end?
Himalayas.
Okay, he was in the Himalayas. To climbing up in the Himalayan mountains, and finding Sean O'Connell and being there and stuff. He just goes from that. It all happens so quickly.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I don't know that I wouldn't say that he was afraid of the world. I think it was just that he was a victim of it. He was just stuck in it. And
That's
he
deep,
didn't.
dude.
We also don't know what his father was like, and his mom and his sister seem very adventurous and weird. And so I think the idea is that he was probably this person before that company kind of took it from. He literally gave his life to the company.
Yeah.
And so I think that the company being sold is just, like I said, it's just the push that this character needed to kind of find himself again. I don't know if I'd be able to climb the Himalayas. That's where I was kind of like, he just happened to trek through. He happened to trek through Yemen,
Right.
like this war-torn area, this country, and then go into Afghanistan, and the cake bought his way through. And it's like, there are some areas where it's definitely reaching.
I liked the movie a lot. I mean, it was a very heartfelt movie. It was an inspiring movie, and I kind of knew the story going in, but I liked that they kind of changed direction from that a little bit. They didn't completely follow the story. I did think there was a little bit of that forced convenience in there with like, he finds the guy's thumb. He goes to that bar and that guy's in there. But I guess, again, they're trying to say there's not that many people in Greenland.
Yeah, he said
and
there's
knew
like
where he was going.
There's 8 people in Greenland.
Right. There's 8 people in all of Greenland. Don't cheat when there's only 8 people in all of Greenland. Don't cheat on your girl. Yeah, that was pretty funny. What did you think of the ending where it ends up being a picture of him sitting there kind of like really taking his work seriously and looking at the negatives?
I think that the idea behind it is very beautiful. I think that it, like I said, the company took kind of 16 years away from him, and then for him to be on the last cover is kind of the company giving it back in a sense. Like they immortalized him. Now, my issue with that moment is that, like, if you're the editor for Time, like, who cares if this one photographer is saying that this has to be the cover? Like, oh, okay, right away, sir. Like,
well, I guess the idea, right, is that everything he sends them is so good. That all the issues
and that's
with his
why,
photos in
again,
them- yeah.
I'm willing to just say fuck it, and that's what it is. Like, I just don't. The little things that take me out of the movie, I'm willing to just accept, because the movie itself is already so strange, and you have to kind of suspend your disbelief with this movie. Otherwise, the message is completely lost. And this is one of those movies that you just have to not view it as a critic, because you'll miss the message. And the whole message of the movie is that there is way more to life, and that you just have to be willing to take that risk. And I think every aspect of this movie is about that, from his actual life to like his personal life. Where if he had just taken the risk and asked her out, he would have known that she wasn't married anymore.
Right.
And it's just, if you just have 30 seconds of courage, you don't know where your life will be. And this is the same sense in like the movie that like Yes Man is about that. Yeah, it is. Your life can change just by saying yes to something. And I think that's kind of what Ben Stiller did with this movie is, he's not saying, no, I shouldn't get on this helicopter with this drunk pilot. What if I do?
Yeah, right. And life's all about decisions. I mean, that's just the truth. Your entire life is about the decisions you make. Every day you make decisions that completely dictate what your life is.
Yeah.
even subconsciously you make some of these decisions. But yeah, the message in this one is really good. The message in this one is inspiring, and it's still relevant, and it always will be, as long as there's people who are kind of trapped in these depressing kind of rat race, desk job, lifestyle kind of jobs. There's always going to be the idea, kind of the grand idea of breaking out of that and finding something more meaningful and kind of figuring out who you are and kind of going through life and finding a sense of adventure.
I really like Sean O'Connell's character a lot in this movie because he kind of embodies the message that this movie is trying to deliver. When he's spent, I don't know how long looking for this it's probably been weeks looking for this snow leopard. And then when he finds it, he doesn't photograph it. Yeah. He says, sometimes I don't take the photo. Sometimes I don't want the distraction of the camera. And I think it's funny because the camera is his job, and I can completely relate to that because that's what I do for a living. And so it's just funny how this art form that he has turned into a living still can be his distraction. Yeah. And so it really is about remembering that you need to be in the moment and kind of take it in because you never know, what's going to happen tomorrow. And so his character is just, in that weird hippie way is just, all about being present and experiencing the beauty for what it is now. Like when he sees those people playing soccer. Yeah. He just says, that looks like fun. I'm going to jump in. And he just does it. And that scene, in my opinion, is probably the best scene in the movie. Like cinematography wise, is just breathtaking.
I like Sean O'Connell's character. I just thought that at the end where he is like apparently having cake and chilling out and eating with Walter Mitty's mom, thought that was a little bit of a stretch. Like he knows him well enough to be like on a first name basis with his mom, and yet like he can't get he doesn't, like Walter Mitty doesn't even know that.
I think they said something about his family, about like, I think his dad knew him or something. So, and I think that's how he kind of got into working at Life. I'm not sure. I don't really remember. I think it's very kind of briefly hinted that they have this like long term. And I could be wrong. But I think the idea is that they've established this long, 16 years, working for the same company and working as the point guy, as he put it, for this same photographer. There's obviously some sort of personal respect between the two, and the fact that he even gave him a wallet.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and he like you said, he's kind of the representation of that life that Walter Mitty kind of fantasizes about. Like even in the opening thing when he's giving him the negatives, he's like, "Sorry about number 13. I got blood on it. I was patching up a gunshot wound or whatever." It's like they set the tone that this guy's like a man of adventure very quickly. Yeah, and you kind of know who he is. The scenery in this movie was beautiful. Like, it made me really want to travel, and it made me specifically want to travel to Greenland and Iceland because they both looked pretty awesome.
Yeah, so Iceland was also shot in Greenland. So
was it really?
all of the extra scenes outside of the U.S. were shot in Greenland.
In Greenland, okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it made me want to go and travel because it's like that's the other thing. It didn't draw quite enough attention to his adventure, I didn't think. Like, I don't know. It's like it all happened so quick. Like, all of a sudden he's on a plane and then he's in Greenland. It just all happened so fast to me that it kind of, I felt like we missed a little bit of, like, his actual adventure. And not all of it, of course. Like, you see plenty of his adventure as he's going through things. But I felt they could have slowed down when he's, like, traveling around a little bit more. Like, it was very quick. Like, he's in Greenland. He's doing some things, he's making phone calls, whatever, and then before you know it, he's back. Then all of a sudden he's in the Himalayas. And now the scene, I will say, the scene that I love the most, like adventure-wise, was when he's like longboarding down the street and traveling, and then the people are trying to warn him of something, and he doesn't really know what, and they're clearly trying to warn him that like this volcano is going to erupt. Yeah. And like that guy shows up in his car, and they like drive out of there real fast. Like that's, and you see Sean O'Connell on the top of an airplane, like going in taking pictures. Yep. That was phenomenal.
Impractical Joker style.
Yeah, exactly. Impractical Joker style. But I did think it went pretty fast where it was like this guy's at a desk job and all of a sudden now he is like full on living that adventurous life.
Yeah.
It jumped into that pretty quick for me.
Well, it's funny because I could see that it's quick, but I wonder if maybe like a director's cut would fix that, you know, by adding a couple scenes here and there.
I think
it
so.
would fill the gap, you know?
I think it could help. Yeah, I think it could help fill in a little bit. I mean, don't get me wrong. I didn't dislike this at all. It like inspired me and it made me kind of want to go out and made me want to travel a little bit. But I did just think while I was watching it, I was like, dang, like he's already in Greenland. He's there.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's like.
But the way I see it, like he's in Greenland, but he's in like a jacket. I mean, like in a jacket and tie with his briefcase. So it's like he's still unwilling to let go. And he's
true.
apprehensive and you know.
Yeah, there's some symbolism there.
Yeah.
You're right.
Well,
and then
speaking of symbolism, like, well, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say because then when he does get clothes, it's not until he's like on that boat, and I think by the time he gets on that boat is when he's really like. Yeah, he's made the jump, exactly. Now he's like, right, now he's not that office version of him anymore. Yeah. Now he's like into the adventure mode a little bit.
That whole scene is hilarious to me though, because like he jumps off the wrong side of the helicopter with the radio equipment, then he gets on and he's like, well, can't we just call somebody? And he's like, well, you jumped into the ocean with our radio components. So
he's in the water and he's like, okay, that is not a porpoise, that is a shark. He's like, stop befriending it, kill it. Yeah. He's like fighting it off. He's like, stop befriending the porpoise.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
But speaking of symbolism, dude, when he finds Sean O'Connell and he says, what is the photograph? And he says, you know, like, let's just call it a ghost cat, Walter Mitty. Like, there is absolutely some symbolism in Walter Mitty being that ghost cat. And again, I think that is that, you know, that symbolism to a life enclosed in behind four walls. He even says this line, I think is absolutely beautiful. He says, you know, the snow leopard doesn't like to be found. You know, beautiful things don't ask for attention.
Right.
And I mean, by that point, Walter Mitty has become a different person, especially after, you know, going through the Alps and stuff, which I don't know how long that took, but that had to have been at least a week.
Yeah, like, it must have been.
There's no way
when he's with the Sherpas
Yemen.
and he's like going through. Yeah, it must have taken forever. Sherpa, right?
Yeah, I have no idea.
Sherpa. I think the like mountain men that help you around are called Sherpas.
Oh, okay. Sure. That was funny too when they're like. And they're like, just all you hear is the.
Yep.
Just the sound of their like jacket material.
Right. That was them. Yeah, that was them communicating basically.
Yeah, that whole sequence, I think at the end, once he kind of gives up on having the girl, that whole sequence towards the end where he's writing and you see, you know, his messages on the screen, and then his build up, you know, going through Afghanistan and up the Himalayas and stuff. That whole thing that I think is one of the most beautifully shot sequences I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And just the music totally sold that and everything. I think you're right in that the movie does move a little quickly. But I guess I'm willing to accept it because I think that Walter Mitty was that person, and it was the death of his father that took that away. And he found because he wasn't somebody who wanted a job, you know, just by having the mohawk and being a skater and all of that. And then his father died, and he says in the movie that he had to find a job because they weren't financially stable. At 17, right. He had to get a job. And he's probably had a job ever since. And he even says, you know, when they're selling the piano for his mother, he says, like, I'm sorry, it was my responsibility. So, like, I think the idea is that he's shouldered all of this weight for his entire life for, you know, over 16 years now.
Right. And he tried to take it. He tried to fill in that role of the responsible kind of male figure in that family.
And so that adventurous side of him got taken because it had to. Yeah. And I think this movie just is about him finding that side of himself again. I don't think it's about the average Joe going out and having this adventure. It really is about Walter Mitty specifically finding that adventurous side of himself again. And that's why I think
That's
I'm
fair.
willing to put all that stuff aside. There's a little puppy trying to get into this room right now.
Little tense, and he's breaking in. Yeah, that's fair, because you're right. He had that adventurous side. He was a skater
And this is my
kid, and he
bias
had
just
that-
trying to defend the movie. I'm not going to lie.
Well, no, I mean, you're right, though, because he had that sense of adventure and that sense of, like, adrenaline as a kid, and then he, as he's going in. Now, it was interesting, too, and, of course, like, talking to the eHarmony guy, that's sort of like the narrator almost of the film. I thought, again, the fact that he came to pick him up, like, save him, was also very...
I liked that. I thought that was awesome. Because he's kind of built this, like, relationship with this guy who is, like, slowly starting to think that he's the most interesting person he's ever talked to.
Yeah, so
Like-
I guess they just built, like, how would he even know where that guy lives? Like, how would he even know that guy lives in the right
I think
city
he
to
just
come and pick
called
up?
him at work. Like
And
calling
was
like
like-
eHarmony, like, hey Todd.
Right, and was like, hey, I need help.
yeah, like, okay, sure. What do you need on your profile? And you're like, no,
He's like, no, I need your help.
I'm in jail.
Yeah.
Um, And I think Todd kind of strikes me as the kind of person who's also that, like, fuck it, like,
Right, let's just do it.
Yeah.
This one got surprisingly low scores from the
I
critic
know.
side.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can see what you mean as far as not really getting quite the appreciation it desired. It got a 51% critic score, which is pretty low, and then a 71% audience. So a little bit of redemption there on the audience side. But what do you think those scores are based on? Why do you think that it would get something like a 51%?
So I think, Jesus.
He's gonna get in there, dude.
Yeah. Oh my God, guys, I'm scared. I think that when you try to make a movie like this with a very deep message, you're inviting critics in. You are literally opening the door and saying, please rate how deep you think this is. And critics are going to rate this harshly because he is somebody who has established himself as not being a director or being a director with a different style. And I personally,
I was just going to say, that's kind of what I was thinking, too, is like, could Ben Stiller ever direct a movie that would not be torn apart by the critics, even if
Right.
it was the perfect movie? You know?
Yeah, you're basically P.T. Barnum in The Greatest Showman trying to take the, whatever her name was, the Swedish Nightingale, and everybody, they love her, but they're not going to take it seriously because he's the one that's presenting her. It's that kind of thing. I legitimately believe that if a director who had never directed before had made this, and this was their first movie, people would have responded to this 100% positively. They would have been like, this thing's amazing. But because it's Ben Stiller and Ben Stiller's name is on this, there's a level there that critics are not willing to let him cross. And I think there's something to be said about that same aspect on the audience score side, because it's Ben Stiller and people expect a certain thing. And
Well, that's the word, is expect. And when you get a Ben Stiller, you're going to get people that are going to come in with all kinds of different expectations.
Right.
You know what I mean? When you see this film and you see the trailers for it, some people who aren't going to put so much pressure on Ben Stiller come in with the expectation that it'll be like a good kind of heartfelt whatever.
yeah,
But then some people are going to kind of stop and have the expectation that, it's going to be Ben Stiller, so it's going to be hilarious. It has to be hilarious.
right.
So
And then they'll
it's
give
just-
it 1 star because,
Right.
But, like,
exactly.
I was reading the reviews. Most of the reviews gave the movie like 4 or 5 stars, but then I was reading reviews where like somebody gave it 1 star, and dude, I shit you not. I will not be shitting. This guy gave it 1 star because it was promoting adultery.
Promoting adultery?
Yeah, because he's trying to get with a woman who's newly divorced, and yeah, and then
It's not
and then they
adultery,
said,
is it? Isn't adultery like a
Cheating?
married person having an
Yeah.
affair?
so I don't know, I don't understand that. And then he said that it's also perpetuating. I don't remember what the hell the word is, but he's basically saying like that he's fantasizing about this woman, and that he shouldn't be fantasizing about her. And
my
like,
God.
Yeah, and I was just like, okay. So like that's the kind of shit that bothers me about anybody being able to write a review, because then you're literally getting such heavily weighted scores that are taking a 5-star or a 4-star movie and then dropping it down. because you weren't prepared for the movie that you went in to watch at that point. Like, why, if you're somebody who scares easily, why would you go sit down at a Conjuring movie and then hate the movie?
Right, and then write negative reviews.
It just doesn't make sense to me, you know? Like, as a human race, I think, like, there's going to be movies that some people don't like. To give this movie 1 star, I think, is absolutely ridiculous. I guess, ultimately, all of that is to say that I understand the scores. I personally will give the movie an 8.
Okay.
I don't think it's the best movie that's ever been made. It has its flaws. For whatever reason, and for the reasons I know, it resonated with me. And so that bumps it up. I think if I was looking at it as a film critic, the movie would get a 7.5. But for me personally, I give it an 8.
Yeah, fair enough.
That is a very long-winded explanation for all that.
No, I mean it's fair. It's probably true. I mean, I liked this movie a lot. I was impassioned by it. I was inspired by it, and it made me want to travel, and it kind of made me take an introspective look. But I didn't think story-wise as a movie it was the best movie ever.
Right.
And I'm kind of right there with you. I think for me this one gets a 7.5. But it's a strong 7.5. Like, I'm somewhere in between there. Like, really, it's probably like a 7.75. You know what I mean? Like, I'm in there somewhere. But I felt like it all happened very quickly. Like, I felt like Walter Mitty went from being Walter Mitty to being adventurer very quickly. And I know this is all based off of a book, or at least loosely based off of a book. Yeah,
very
so,
loosely,
there is something there. But give credit where credit is due. For Ben Stiller to come in and direct this thing, it was not overly Stillerized. It was very heartfelt. Yeah, Stillerized. It was very heartfelt, and it felt like it meant something. It was a good story. He picked a good story that actually had some meaning, and he played the character well. I thought the delusions were a little bit out there, even though I think that's kind of the whole thing about Walter Mitty. But I think the delusions were a little bit out there. The casting was fantastic. Kristen Wiig, what's his name? Adam Scott. I thought he was really funny as like the new boss guy to come in and be kind of a dick. He played that well.
Fucking shitty person. I hated him so much.
Such a shitty person. Oh my God. He's got his little inside clique of guys that he hangs out with. It's all politics nonsense. Yeah. But I liked it. I didn't love it. I can definitely understand like where you're coming from with this, and it made sense to me how this one resonates with you a lot, because I saw the like similarities in who you are and like your character, and then kind of what was going on in this movie. So I'm not surprised at all that you love this one as much as you did. I really liked it a lot. I'll definitely watch it again. But just as a movie, it definitely wasn't my favorite. I'm going to stick with the strong 7.5.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think we're on the same page. I think it resonating with me doesn't mean that I think it's the best movie ever made. I think it's one of my favorite movies because of X and Y, you know. But I can still look at it from a point of view of a critic and say, you know what? No, it's not the best movie ever made. It's got flaws, but the humor sit right with me. The idea of adventure resonated with me. The messages of that the movie tried to put across, I understood. And so I guess, yeah, I mean, we're on the same page is what I'm saying.
Fair enough. Yeah, really good movie. You got anything else for this one?
No. I think if you haven't seen it, give it a shot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll definitely be recommending this to people, because I think there's a lot of people that didn't even see this when it was out. I think if I talk to a lot of people, I'll bet this would be one where a lot of people, hey, have you seen Secret Life of Walter Mitty? You're going to hear no a lot. So I'll definitely be promoting this one a fair bit. I enjoy
and again, like when I was reading reviews, man, like there's a lot of 5-star reviews. Like I feel like Amazon is almost a more reliable source for reviews than Rotten Tomatoes, because you're getting genuine people's reactions. And if you look on Amazon, it's got like 4.5 stars out of like thousands of reviews.
Yeah, I believe that. Well, in critics, I feel like kind of there's a lot of critics that feel like they have to say negative things about something. Right. Otherwise they don't think they're really critiquing it.
Yeah.
And so you got to pick something. There you go. But I agree with you. To give this like a 1-star review is crazy. This was a very fun movie. There's nothing about it that warrants, low scoring. I say, listen, when I say 7.5, you guys know from the scores that we give, that's a pretty strong score on here. I mean, there's been some big name movies, like Pixar movies, that we've given 7.5.
That's like a C plus, B minus,
Yeah, that's where I'm at with this one. And again, I did enjoy it. So that's it, man. Unless you got anything else for it, that is the Critic and the Common Man review of The Secret Life of Walter Mitty.
Sorry, I was zoning out.
I was like, dude, are you all right? Oh my god. I thought my screen froze or something. Cool. All right, you guys. Well, that's it. You heard it here first. The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. 7.5 and an 8. Mitty. We're out of here. Cool. All right, guys.